We have Rajiv Memani, who's the President Designate at CII, joining us, and along with him, we also have Sunil Kant also joining us. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for joining us on ET Now to talk about the budget and what actually you all make of the budget. Mr. Memani, let me come first to you. Do you think now that the fact that the budget is out of the way and you can see a clear shift of the government moving from an infrastructure-led growth to now going in for consumption-led growth?
No, I don't. I won't say that there is a clear shift in the government. I think there is in the government's policy. I think still the number that we have is still 3.4% of GDP, which is probably the highest that we have had if you look at the last 10, 15 years. And yes, the anticipation was definitely, the industry would have preferred a number which is more in the 11,50,000 to 12 lakh crores. But I think what you have to bear in mind is that the last time's expense we all think that the last time's expense budget was 11 lakh 20,000 crores, but actual spend is close to 10 lakh crores. So it's a 10% increase, and the nominal GDP growth that we are looking at is also 9.5, 9.6%. So yes, definitely it's short of expectations, but it doesn't indicate a big shift. On the consumption side, I think everyone was making the representation that given the fact that consumption is slowing down, there has been high inflation. For the lower to middle income people, the tax rates, have been same, and the disposable income in there, and they're facing the maximum crunch of inflation, high interest rates. So there was some relief that everyone was asking for, and we anticipated the relief will come. What we didn't anticipate was that the relief will be of such an extent that it is. And I think it's good to do that, because then the real impact comes. It changes, the consumption patterns, and coupled with other things that come along with it, hopefully it will bolster greater capex spends. And I think the government is also trying to ensure that the private sector also, which has been investing in capex, but that energy further gets accelerated. So through capex spent by the government, through a lot of focus on ease of doing business, looking at things where center and state can partner to push things, setting up groups on strategically important areas, looking at more labor-intensive focusing more on industries that are more labor-intensive. So if you couple all that together, I think the thought process is the same. The thought process is very clear and very aimed at trying to see what happens in the next 10, 15, 20 years, what are the key pillars of growth, and how does the government, try and address each of those pillars of growth.
But Mr. Munjal, let me come to you. Thank you so much for taking the time out and speaking with us. But at the center of this particular budget, Munjal, the theme has been consumption. And definitely, the auto sector as a whole is expected to get a big boost, but wanted to have your sense and your first take on the budget, and along with that, how beneficial could this be for the consumption-led sectors, including autos?
So I'd break this up into three different parts. One is there's a wonderful initiative to focus on the building blocks, okay? Skilling, training, innovation, research, education, healthcare, nutrition, focusing on agriculture and the farmers, focusing on their health, producing better seeds, more innovation for improving agriculture yield. So that's one basket. Second is additional, as Rajiv just said, significant additional liquidity in individuals' and families' hands. So what do? They actually either go and invest, or they increase savings, or they consume. When they consume, they buy goods and services which have to be produced by industry, and thereby increasing capacity utilization and therefore leading to investment cycles from industry, which has been a little bit below requirement for the last few years. The infra spend from the government has been doing the heavy lifting. I think it will be useful to find a good balance. And don't forget, by the way, the infra spend has not stopped. It is just not increased as much as some of us had been asking for. It's still going to be very significant, a 10% increase over actual spend of last year, which was just over 10 lakh crores. So, and the third part is for industry itself, setting a manufacturing mission especially focused on technology, setting focus on clean energy, focus on nuclear energy, focus on improving and making M&As smoother and quicker and easier. So there's a whole host of things that have been done for industry existing, and then the plan to put in place a group which will look at all the rules, regulations de novo from scratch. And that's something which I think we as a nation will benefit significantly from, both as an industry and as citizens. Both will benefit from that. And hopefully the tax bill which comes in this week will also be simpler, more trust-based, more transparent, and as the FM said, less than 50% in size of the current bill. So hopefully that, as a combination, we are trying to build capabilities from the bottom up in the nation, and we do need this in a world that is highly fractured, very stressed, and pulling apart right now. As a nation, we need to build capacity, we need to build competitiveness, and we need to build consumption at the same time, so that we're not borrowing, we're not leaning too heavily on increased borrowing for all of our operational activities and all of our capex. As it happens, we are at a reasonable limit in terms of borrowings overall. The FM has played a wonderful balancing act between maintaining the fiscal discipline and figuring out ways to grow.
Mr. Munjal, and given the fact that as a nation that is actually growing, we need to create capacity, capabilities as well as consumption. Mr. Memani, I want to come to you just to understand basically about the fiscal math. Given the fact that we have gone ahead and lowered the fiscal deficit target now to, or rather pegged the fiscal deficit target to about 4.4% for FY26, how achievable do you think it will be?
No, I think if you look at the track record of this government, I think it's a very enviable track record, because they have almost, apart from the COVID years, in the last 6-7 years, if I recollect, they have always achieved and in many cases done better than what they had projected insofar as fiscal deficit is concerned. So I think they will be tracking this and watching this very closely. Most of the assumptions that that they have taken, I won't say are conservative assumptions, because a lot of it depends on GDP growth. The GDP growth number that they have taken doesn't seem to be that aggressive. In fact, probably we could have pushed harder on that. If you look at the divestment number, also is achievable number, although that's one number that we haven't done that well on historically. And the capex spends, and so if I look at overall, as long as there is no major global event that happens which shakes up the growth globally, I would say this number is very achievable. And if the government should be, they should be focused in getting 40 to 50,000 crores through divestments, I don't think there should be an issue.
Absolutely. Hopefully it is achievable given the fact that the way how the track record has been of the government. But thank you, Mr. Memani, as well as Munjal, for joining us on ET Now to talk about budget and give your first take on the union budget for the next fiscal year. But